Actually, when I was 12 years old, I began painting just as a hobby. My parents signed me up for some art lessons. This is in Kansas City, Missouri. And it just kind of grew into a hobby, which eventually grew into a business. I've been painting professionally about 25 years. I've been doing it full time for about 10 years. So it's kind of it's gone the full gamut from being a hobby to being a profitable hobby to being a profession. So it kind of just makes a full circle. I spent 20 years in law enforcement. I was a police officer in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I was a special deputy sheriff in Forsyth County. But I always painted. I always painted in the when I wasn't working the streets or whatever. I was still pretty actively involved in my art. Well, after 20 years, I got out of law enforcement, and I became a real estate appraiser. I had several jobs in the interim, and I eventually reached a point about when I was 50, I decided I wanted to really take this and run with it. So I started marketing myself as a professional artist that could travel and teach workshops to aspiring artists. And what I found was the business it grew rapidly. And I also, because of the way I paint, using a lot of large brushes, I really couldn't find the brushes I wanted that suited me for my style of painting, so I designed my own brushes and began manufacturing those. They're marketed internationally now. And I designed my own watercolor palette, and the business just took off. It just grew so rapidly. My main medium is watercolors, and I travel all over the U.S. and Canada working with groups of artists teaching a very specific style of watercolors using a series of brushes which I designed, and mostly large brushes. I'm trying to teach people how to kind of branch away from photorealism and fine detail and get more into expressive, bold, either abstract or impressionistic work, which I think is much more exciting because it leaves something to the imagination. It kind of challenges the viewer to become part of the painting. That's where my work is heading. And what I find is I'm leaning more and more towards the abstract. Now, watercolor is my main medium, but I also do acrylics and I do oils. And in addition to the painting, I also have I just came out with a book, and it's a book on my style of watercolors. And I also have a library of instructional DVDs, which are marketed all over the world. So it's just every day it's growing bigger. The most rewarding part, I think, is when somebody actually buys a painting, because it's not the monetary reward, it's the fact that people work hard for their money. All of us work very hard for our money, and when somebody's willing to part with their income to buy one of your paintings, that's the finest compliment you can get. It's the satisfaction and the pride of knowing that somebody liked my work enough they want to buy it. That's what really keeps me pumped up on this whole thing.